Alrighty, welcome back to the Young Man Squad Fantasy Basketball Podcast, which is of course part of the Old Man Squad Sports Network, which is also this podcast is also part of the Believe Network and is sponsored by FanDuel. And today we are going to be taking a real 20-team dynasty startup draft, Roto scoring. So it's a little different, or I guess shouldn't be too much different, but a little different in how it's scored, but it shouldn't impact a dynasty draft too much. Maybe a little bit with certain picks, but in my mind, we're still looking at who is, the best player over the next 10 to 15 years. So maybe we look at certain things a little differently, but in a vacuum, it shouldn't change how we value players too much. And we talked about this yesterday, I believe. So maybe if there is managers wanting to build their team a certain way from the start, which is totally fine, you're more than welcome to lean into a strategy early on. We could see that. But in a vacuum, like I said, it shouldn't change rankings and how we value players too much. But this was brought to me by We the North on Twitter. He's in one of my leagues as well. So shout out to him for submitting that so that I can take a look at it. If you are in a dynasty startup or did some sort of rookie draft and you want me to take a look at it and give my thoughts on the picks, send it to me or tag me in a tweet, whatever it is, and I will take a look at it on the show. It's a good exercise for me to look at all your teams and look at players and where they go and see how that shapes how I value certain players or how I see certain players valued by others. Hopefully it's fun for you and your league mates to get thoughts on it. And it gives me content in the dead of the off season. So any drafts or content like that you want me to take a look at, feel free to submit it to me. I'm going to go ahead and pull this one up, and it's going to look, I've never even been able to figure out how to get a screenshot like this out of Fantrax. And if you're looking at it, it might be kind of difficult to read right now, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and call out the picks anyway. And we're just going to kind of go through some of these. All right, so the draft starts off pretty normal, the way it should, with Victor Wembanyama, SGA, and Jokic as the first three picks. So again, that's what we expect to see. But then things get a little bit different from what we generally see. Trae Young with the number 4 pick. Trae Young is, I believe I have him 15th in my dynasty rankings, so it's a little bit different. And you can make an argument that in a Roto format, knowing Trae Young is going to play a lot of games, maybe that gives you a little bit of extra confidence. He's going to dominate assists. He's going to get a really nice free throw percentage for you. You should hit a lot of threes, score a lot of points. Like those things are good. But you also have the really low field goal percentage and all the turnovers. Not ideal for a Roto format. Something you can play up, like, build your team a little bit a certain way in a head-to-head league to offset some of those issues, but it's a little bit more difficult in a Roto league. You have to be more intentional during your draft to make that happen. But clearly, this is someone that really believes in the Hawks and really believes that they're going to be a good team this year. And what this person could do, whoever drafted Trae Young number 4 overall, is go ahead and get in on the action. If you go to our partners at FanDuelSportsbook.com, you can look at the Eastern Conference winners, the Western Conference winners, and you can get in on the action really easily by just submitting your bet right there. You can see the Hawks are number 4 in the Eastern Conference as far as how the betting odds would have them finish. They're projected 4th overall. So Cavs, who were 1 last year, the Knicks, who were 3 this past season, and the Magic and Hawks, 2 play-in teams, are now 3rd and 4th. And both teams made some big improvements this summer. And a lot of the other teams in the East, somehow it's going to be an even more wide open Eastern, even easier Eastern Conference next year. Sure, if you're looking at legacies or something like that, maybe that's an issue for you. But generally speaking, it's just kind of opening the path for a lot of different teams to make some noise. and we should get a new team in the NBA Finals next year. Somebody that, like some players that haven't made it before. If we're just looking at these odds, the top 6 teams in projections for the East are teams that haven't made it to the NBA Finals. I mean, who would have been the most recent one? I guess the Cavs would have been the most recent one, and that was the LeBron Cavs. But it's a whole new roster there. The Knicks obviously haven't. The Magic obviously haven't. Last made it with Dwight Howard. The Hawks made the Eastern Conference Finals 4 years ago. So actually, they would have been the last ones to make the Eastern Conference. Nope, just kidding. The Knicks just made it. Yikes. But the Pistons and then the Sixers, you have to go down a little bit to the Celtics with no Jason Tatum, the Bucks with nobody except Giannis, and the Pacers with no Tyrese Halliburton, the Heat, to get some of those teams that have made it more recently. So it's a pretty wide open Eastern Conference. And if you're drafting Trae Young, number 4 overall in a dynasty startup, you probably have a little bit of belief in both him and his team. So you want to get on the action, FanDuel Sportsbook is a great place to do that. Moving back over to the draft, it picks back up and gets pretty normal again. And if you watch my top 12 video from yesterday, where I go through my 12 players that I would draft in a dynasty startup, how I would draft the first 12 picks, then this should be no surprise to you. We have Luka Doncic, Cooper Flagg, Cade Cunningham, Anthony Edwards, Chet Holmgren. That lines up very closely with my rankings because I have Luka at 3, so he slipped because of Trae Young. Flagg at 5, he went 6. I have Cade at 6, he went 7. I have Evan Mobley at 7, he went 10. So I was right after Chet Holmgren. Anthony Edwards went 8, and I have him ranked 8th. Chet Holmgren went 9th. I have him ranked 9th. And now here's where things get a little different from a dynasty perspective, but we'll see by looking at the rest of this manager's team that may have been playing into his strategy a little bit, or their strategy a little bit. Anthony Davis at 11. That is a little bit earlier than I would have him. I have him 31 in my rankings, but if you're able to, if you look at the board, if you're watching, you're able to see this, hopefully at least a little bit. If not, I'll explain it. If you're listening, I'll just explain it. The rest of this team's draft went Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, James Harden, Khalil Ware, LeBron, Jimmy Butler, CJ McCollum. You kind of get the point from now. There's a few more veterans, a couple young guys sprinkled in, but this is a team that's looking to win now. You have AD, KD, Harden, LeBron, Jimmy Butler. That's a very good team in a 20-team league. Of course, you have to keep your fingers crossed that they're going to stay healthy. So it is a strategy to go with there. You have a player in Ware that you might be able to move for a really solid player later on. It could be a trade deadline move. It could be, next offseason. It could be immediately after this draft where you're able to add more win now pieces. Or you can just keep him because he's going to be a good player this year as well, but doesn't have the same upside that some of these other guys do. I mean, we're talking about between AD, KD, Harden, and LeBron, 4 guys who believe are going at least in the first 2 rounds, at least the first 3 rounds for sure, in redraft leagues, in 12-team leagues. And you're getting them in a 20-team dynasty league. So, yeah, this is going to be a very competitive team next season. That's why I still wouldn't take AD that early, but you see the vision, you see the strategy. After that, it goes Giannis, Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Williams. I think that's a pretty good value pick. He went a few spots after where I have him. He went at, let's see, this is pick 14. I have him at 11. So decent value there. Then it goes Jason Tatum, Jaren Jackson Jr., which is a little bit higher than I have him. He went 16 in this draft. I have him 25. Amen Thompson, really good value there because I have Amen at 10. He went 17. Then we have Karl Anthony Towns, Tyrese Maxey, and wrapping up the first round with Jalen Johnson, who I have ranked 12th, going at 20. So some of the better value picks from this first round. I think getting Luka outside the top 4 is a very good value pick. Getting Evan Mobley at 10, I have him ranked 7, nice value. Jalen Williams at 14, and then Amen Thompson at 17, Jalen Johnson at 20 are all phenomenal picks. Then we go Alperen Şengün and LaMelo Ball. LaMelo is a nice value pick there. I have him at 13, so seeing him go at 22. I think that's a little bit more understandable, the sense that, we talked about Trae Young, who went fourth. LaMelo has a lot of the same issues. He's a better rebounder, but he gives you a lot of points, a lot of threes, a lot of assists, steals, but his field goal percentage and turnovers are also really bad. But then you also have the issue of games played that you have with LaMelo, but the upside is still there. I think seeing him go at 22 is a nice value, but I guess it's understandable, especially if you're talking about a Roto format where you just kind of need this guy out on the floor. Like, you'll get the production from his good games, but kind of are hoping that he's out there on the floor. So I understand, I guess, also in a 20-team league versus like a 12-team league, having LaMelo slip a little bit more, because how confident are you to necessarily start your draft with a guy that's been injury prone for the last couple of years? I understand the reluctancy. I still would be fine taking him 13th, which is why I have him ranked there. But I get it. Then we had Devin Booker at 23. That's where I have him ranked. Franz Wagner, nice value. Scotty Barnes, nice value. Darius Garland, this is pick 26. And then Dyson Daniels at 27. Heck, I love Dyson Daniels. I have no problem taking him early, especially if you have this team with Jalen Williams. I think they fit pretty well together. Jalen Williams is a pretty well-rounded player. Dyson Daniels is going to be one of the league leaders in steals, if not the league leader. And it's pretty solid in a handful of other categories, which is, makes him a valuable pick. And we have Paolo Banchero, Domantas Sabonis, and then we have Kevin Durant, which, again, early, but it's on the team with Anthony Davis, so it is a win-now team. Then we have Bam Adebayo, Trey Murphy. I think that's nice value because I have Trey Murphy ranked 28th. And he went, 32 in this draft. So pretty nice value there. Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell is nice value as well because I have Mitchell 24th and he went 2 picks after Trey Murphy. Then we have Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox, Asar Thompson, Tyler Hero, Desmond Bane, and Brandon Miller to wrap up round 2. I think Miller's a nice pick there because I have him ranked 32 and he went 40. Tyler Hero is a guy that I'm a little bit lower on. He went 38 in this draft and I have him ranked 51st. Just a little bit lower on him as a player, but I think you can obviously make it work. He will play he has been able to play in a lot of games, gives you a lot of points, a lot of threes, and the Heat don't really have too many other players that can rely on. So it's going to be a lot resting on Tyler Hero's shoulders, which should mean quite a few stats, a lot of production from him. We have a 3rd round reversal. So we're going to head back over to the other side of the board for the start of round 3, which we kick it off with Austin Reeves. And then we go to Jalen Duren, Josh Giddey, Jamal Murray, Jalen Green. I want to take a second to talk about some of these because, let's see, I have Reeves ranked 47, so just a couple picks early, no big deal. Same thing with Duren. I have 53. Josh Giddey, I'm lower on. I have him 62. I know everyone loves Josh Giddey. I'm more optimistic in a redraft league than I am in a dynasty league because I don't think that you want Josh Giddey to be the best player on your team. I don't think the Chicago Bulls should want that. I think he was really productive to end last season for fantasy, and we might get that again this year, assuming that he's still in Chicago because he still hasn't signed a contract. I'm assuming as a restricted free agent that he'll be back, but not super optimistic that he's a player that you want to have as one of the best players on your fantasy team, but also as one of the best players, if not the best player on your NBA team. I don't think that he's a player to build around. I think Chicago has a lot to figure out. And yeah, from a fantasy perspective, you say, hey, it's the Bulls. They keep screwing this stuff up. Well, at least we know Josh Giddey will have the ball in his hands. And yeah, I see the argument there, but I'd rather invest, especially, first 3 rounds in a 20-team league or whatever it ends up being in a 30-team league, first 2 rounds. I'd rather invest one of those picks in a player that I really believe in. And if you believe in Josh Giddey, that's totally fine to take him well, let's see, he went 43 in this draft. I wouldn't, but that's me not being a huge believer in Josh Giddey as a player. So to each his own, basically, with that one. Then we have Jamal Murray and then Jalen Green. And this falls under the same bucket as Josh Giddey, where I'm just not a big believer in Jalen Green. I think he's a talented basketball player that can really score the ball, but he hasn't been able to do it efficiently. Now he's going to be in Phoenix, which is a pretty interesting fit with him and Devin Booker next to each other. I have him 113, so not a huge fan of him going 45. I think some of those, like a Josh Giddey, I can say, hey, you can take him 20 picks earlier. Like, I see the argument. I know other people make the argument. Don't think too many people are going to take Jalen Green at 45. I wouldn't take him in the top 100. But if you believe in Jalen Green, you have to get your guy. Go for it. Total, like, I'm not going to get mad at you. It's your draft. If you believe in Jalen Green, go for it. But if you're not a believer in Jalen Green, I would not advise you to spend that early of a pick on him. Next, we have Ja Morant, and that's pick 45. And I have him ranked 37, so that's a nice value. Ivica Zubac, Denny Avdia, Jaylen Brown, James Harden, Miles Turner, Steph Curry. It's kind of interesting to me that the AD KD team went Harden over Steph. I have Steph ranked a little higher in Dynasty. And I would assume he goes earlier in redraft. Just kind of interesting. Don't know if that's what I would do. I have Steph at 42 in Dynasty and Harden at 57. So I don't think it's a bad pick to take Harden. Just I would have preferred Curry in that for that team. It's interesting. Then we have Jared Allen, Onyeka Kongwu, Scoot Henderson, Walker Kessler, Zion Williamson, VJ Edgecombe. And then we wrap up round 3 with Alex Sarr. And that's the 60th pick. And I have him 41st. I think that's a really good value. The Jaylen Brown pick, where was that? There was a Jaylen Brown pick, correct? Yes. Okay. Wait, it was right before James Harden. Goodness, I'm going blind. 49, I have him at 38. So, again, I like that pick. I like the value of it. All right, let's go on to round 4, which is kicking us off with pick 61. That's Reed Shepherd. I'm at 63, so I think that's fine to take him there. We have Mark Williams, OG Anunoby, Cedric Coward, who I like as a player, or like as a prospect, see the upside. And, there's some statistical reasons to be very excited about him. But I think this is a little bit early considering we saw him play 6 games last year at Washington State. And then he hasn't went in and played in Summer League, just been able to do some workouts so far. The long wingspan 3-point shooter on the wing, like, it's a great archetype to have, but I think investing a 4th round pick on Cedric Coward is a little bit early for me. I have him ranked 139 in my dynasty rankings. I think it's the further you get, I've talked about this before, but like the further you get down to dynasty ranking, the less set I am on. That's why I'm like, okay, yeah, Luka Doncic needs to be in the top 4, and like you can't really put him down too many spots. But like as you get further down, it's like, yeah, as long as it's within a few spots, and as long as it's within 10 spots, it's like at some point it's just like, hey, it's a free for all. I would say that somewhere within like 10 to 20 spots for Cedric Coward at 139. So to me, taking him at 64 is a little bit early, but if you believe in Cedric Coward, go get your guy. But we're looking at him as the 3rd rookie off the board in this draft, and I don't think that he's the number 3 rookie. I have him as I actually have those. Was it 6? I had him at 12th in my first set of rookie rankings, and then I did a updated set after Summer League, and he was closer to 16. So I think it's a bit early for Cedric Coward there. Then we go Lauri Markkanen, who, let's see, what is this? 66 for Markkanen, and I have him at 50, so I like that pick. Ace Bailey, Donovan Clingan, both nice picks there. Jalen Suggs, Kyrie Irving, Derek White, Khalil Ware. Joel Embiid is the interesting one. Let's pick 72. I have Embiid ranked 97. I'm not super confident or interested in spending a premium pick on Joel Embiid in a dynasty startup. Obviously, if it works out and he's healthy, it's a pretty insane team to start off with. Giannis, Sabonis, Jaylen Brown, and Joel Embiid. Pretty insane, very competitive team from year one. But there's just so, I guess I have such little confidence that Joel Embiid's going to be healthy because, like, what's the best case scenario for him? Do we think he's going to be able to consistently play 34, 35 minutes per game, or do we think it's probably closer to 30? Do we think he's ever going to play in a back-to-back? Do we think that he's going to play in every game that's not part of a back-to-back? I'm not super confident in a lot of that. So the upside would be very beneficial to have Joel Embiid at pick 72. But there's a reason that he's so much lower in dynasty rankings now, is that nobody has confidence that he's going to be what he once was. But again, if he is healthy, you probably win your league. So I get the argument to take him there. Derek Lively is pick 73. Tari Eason, Emmanuel Quickley, Kobe White, Isaiah Hartenstein, John Collins, Nick Claxton, and wrapping up pick 80 with Mikal Bridges. I think a lot of those ones there at the end, pretty decent value. So I guess maybe towards the middle. Hartenstein, I have 76, and I think he went 77. So nice, right on par there. I have Kobe White at 67, so nice value. Quickly at 72. Tari Eason's a little higher, if I'm not mistaken. Nope, just right at 74, which is right where he went. Nice pick there. I think the Lively one I have at 52. I'm a little bit lower on Mikal Bridges. I have him at 91. Claxton, I think I was a good bit lower on this time. I remember bumping him down a good bit, but where did I end on Claxton? 134. So that one I don't love. And then John Collins 144. So yeah, those two I'm not a huge fan of, but some of the other ones are either right on par with what I have or pretty good value, in my opinion. All right, moving on. We probably won't talk about this whole draft. We'll see how much we talk about. Starting off round 5 with Josh Hart. I know a lot of people love Josh Hart, specifically in category leagues. I'm not super in love with him in dynasty leagues. I have him 123. And, in a certain team fit, it does work out really well. But he's not a super young prospect. He doesn't score a ton. Obviously, the rebounds and assists are pretty nice, but I think his category league value ends up getting overinflated by 9Cat Z scores. A bit lower on him. We have Zach LaVine, Modest Buzelis, who I have at 83. And he went 83. Nice value. Nice pick. Jordan Poole went 84th, and I have him 56. I think that's a really nice value pick here. Jade McDaniels, Brandon Ingram, Conk Nipples. We have another rookie in there. DeJounte Murray, Stephon Castle. DeJounte, I really still believe in and like, but I have him at 77 because of the torn Achilles. So I think getting him at, what is this, 88? Nice value. And actually, now that I'm looking at this team, they also got Tyrese Halliburton in the first round. So you might, I see the vision there. I see the vision. You're waiting a little bit. You're trying to get in on that 2026 draft. I see it. I like it. Then we have Stephon Castle, LeBron, Vucevic, Kristaps Porzingis, Bilal Coulibaly, Devin Vassell. Is that pick 94 to get Vassell? I know I'm higher on Vassell, but I have him at 64. It's probably on the higher end that you'll see. So I don't want to call this, the best pick of the draft. It was an incredible, valuable pick, but I love that pick. Brandon Pajemski at 95. Then we had Jakob Poeltl, Naz Reid, Kawhi Leonard, Cam Johnson, Anthony Simons at pick 100 to wrap up round 5. Then we go Michael Porter Jr., Zach Edey, DeAndre Ayton, Rudy Gobert, Miles Bridges, Shaden Sharp, Keegan Murray, Jabari Smith, Fred VanVleet, Christian Brown in the first half of round 6. So this is all players that went outside the top 100. I have Shaden Sharp right at pick 100. I have Pajemski and that was from last round. I have him at 101. Trying to see who else in this range that I have around that top 100 spot, or maybe some of these guys end up being just outside. I have Jabari Smith at 96. It's a nice value pick to get him at 108, I believe. Fred VanVleet at 106. That's a nice value. Christian Brown at 1. I have him at 105, so I like that value. Here's a couple, I guess. Okay, so we'll go after that. So after Brown, it's Jimmy Butler, RJ Barrett, Cam Thomas, who I have at 95. Nice. Colin Sexton, Nikola Topic, who I have at 87. So that was a nice value pick there to get him at. Goodness, it's driving my eyes crazy. 115 to get Topic. Then we have Jonathan Kuminga. We have Colin Murray Boyles, who is a nice value there because I have him at 85. Kyle Filipowski, who I have at 126. So this is just a touch earlier than what I have in my rankings, but I think that's totally fine, especially when we get to this point of the draft. Like I said, it doesn't have to line up exactly. And then Tumani Kamara, and then Julius Randle to wrap up round 6. All right, in round 7 of this draft, which starts off with pick 121 with Malik Monk, we do have a lot of rookies to talk about specifically for this round. So we have Bub Carrington with the second pick of this round. That's not saying he's a rookie, but saying he's the next pick, 122. We have Trey Johnson, Common Malawatch, Kevin Porter Jr., Thomas Sorber, Jaden Ivey, Jared McCain, Keontae George, and CJ McCollum in the first half of this round. That McCain pick, I have him at 84, and I have Malawatch at 86. Some really nice values there to get outside the first 120 picks. Trey Johnson going at 123 is a pretty interesting one. He is currently, if you check out our partners at FanDuel, if you check out their odds, he's currently second for Rookie of the Year. Obviously, Cooper Flagg is the major favorite, but Trey Johnson is one of those guys that we're all expecting and that odds makers are expecting to have one of the stronger rookie seasons, and he's really set up in a great situation in Washington to eventually become a star and to have one of the better rookie years. So this is a great spot if you want to believe in Trey Johnson. If you really do believe in him, it's a great place to put your money where your mouth is. Or you can just use this information to say, hey, maybe in a redraft league, I'm more interested in Trey Johnson than in a lot of the other rookies. Odds makers are pretty excited about him. And as we see, dynasty managers are as well, and rightfully so. But back to the draft. Let's see. After we talked about CJ McCollum, which was pick 130, and then we have DeMar DeRozan, Jaeger Dillman, which is another guy that surprisingly has very huge, big odds. He's pretty far down the list of players that on FanDuel's odds for Rookie of the Year. He's plus 7,500. So just a few of the guys that are ahead of him. Obviously, you saw some of the top guys on that list, but Jeremiah Fears, Nick Clifford, Walter Clayton Jr., Nikola Topic are all ahead of Jaeger Dillman. I don't agree with that. I think Dillman is going to potentially be a first-team all-rookie guy, and he's a player that I've talked about not being super high on long-term, but he is going to be in a really good situation to be productive during his rookie year. Should be one of the better rookies in fantasy because not too many will be able to get as many assists as him. And based on what we saw in Summer League, there's going to be an emphasis on shooting, so maybe there'll be some nice three-point production from there as well. Moving on in this draft, let's see, we talked about Jaeger Dillman at, 132. Then we have Peyton Pritchard, Ron Holland, Derek Queen, Andrew Nembhard. Nice value pick there. Nembhard, I have him at 108. But honestly, he's going to have a really good year. And is probably a player that we're all too low on in redraft leagues. So to get him at 136 is one, just really good value in that regard. But two, really expecting a lot from him with no Tyrese Halliburton this year. We've seen him have big moments in the playoffs. We've seen him have some solid regular season games as well. But now it's not, Nembhard in as a streaming option because Halliburton's out. It's, hey, this is his team this year. So I'm expecting a big year from him. Then we have Walter Clayton Jr., Terrence Shannon Jr., Jeremiah Fears, and Isaiah Collier to wrap up round 7. We'll go a couple more rounds here just to talk about it. We have, kicking off round 8, it's Zachary Risache, who was just a number 1 overall pick in 2024. So getting him at 141, that's pretty nice. Benedict Mathurin, Young Hunson, so much hype around him. Andrew Wiggins, Taylor Hendricks, nice value. Cason Wallace, Daniel Gafford, Isaiah Jackson. That's probably a little bit earlier than I would want to get Isaiah Jackson, though I like Isaiah Jackson. I have him ranked 272, so getting him at 148 is a touch early for me. Quentin Grimes, Ty Jerome, Tobias Harris, Dante DiVincenzo, Rob Dillingham. That's a nice value pick. I have Rob at 98. So that was a top 100 player at pick. Let's see, where did he just go? Round 8, pick 13. So it's 153. Is pretty good value. Cam Whitmore, Herb Jones, Jalen Wells, Nick Clifford, Jan Berenjay, who just had an awesome summer league. Paul George. Wow. Seeing him fall to 159 is quite the fall from grace for him. Hopefully he's able to bounce back a little bit this year. Not super optimistic, though. And then wrapping up round 8 is PJ Washington at pick 160. All right, then kicking off round 9, we have Aaron Gordon, Keon Ellis, Kasparis Yakuchonis, Santi Aldama, Keon Johnson, Carter Bryant, Nikola Jovic, Day'Ron Sharp, Draymond Green, Ayo Dosunmu, Moussa Diabate, Damian Lillard. So that's pick 172 for Dame. That's quite the fall. I have Dame at 138 because an Achilles injury at his age is it's pretty detrimental. Not super confident he's going to come back and be the player or anywhere near what he was. But the upside there is enough for me to not bump him too far down the rankings. But seeing him fall in an actual draft isn't all that surprising. So hopefully that he'll be able to come back and be some semblance of what he once was after missing an entire season. But again, not super optimistic about that. Norm Powell was next, and then Jarris Walker. So really good value pick there to get him at, 174? Just so everyone knows, I have Jarris Walker at 145, so it's a nice value. Gigi Jackson, Wendell Carter Jr., Malik Beasley, DeAndre Hunter, Yves Missi, and Keyshawn George to wrap up round 9. I have Yves Missi at 132. I have Keyshawn George at 119. Maybe I'm too high on Keyshawn George, but I really like him. So getting him at 180, phenomenal value right there. Then we have Noah Essengay to start round 10, D'Angelo Russell, Deron Holmes, Jonathan Isaac, Bradley Beal, Noah Clowney, Peyton Watson, Jeremy Sohan, Jeremy Grant, Bobby Portis. So a lot of veterans starting off with Essengay and then having Deron Holmes in there as well. I guess Clowney and Watson are still some, and Sohan are still some upside guys. Capella, then we have Anthony Black, Davion Mitchell, Scottie Pippen Jr., Ryan Dunn inside the top 200. I have him at 137, so I really like that pick at 195. Max Christie, Aaron Neesmith, Adembona, Danny Wolf, Rui Hachimura to wrap up round 10. Then we have Grayson Allen, Ryan Kalkbrenner outside the top 200. Then Rasheer Fleming, then Maxime Reynaud. Whoa, that's a lot of players that I'm kind of a fan of. I have Kalkbrenner at 179. Pretty high on him as a rookie. I have for his rookie year. Fleming at 170. And then who was the third? Maxime Reynaud. I have it 207. So this is pretty in line with that. Yeah, 204. Pretty in line. Goga Batadze, Mitchell Robinson, Devin Carter, Liam McNeely, another rookie, Obi Toppin, Brooke Lopez, Lou Dort, Drew Holiday, Alex Caruso. A lot of nice, solid veterans there. Trace Jackson Davis, Nolan Traore, Cole Anthony, Klay Thompson, Chris Paul. Wow, Klay Thompson, Chris Paul back-to-back. Bryce Sensabaugh, Grady Dick. Then we have Robert Williams to start off round 12. Then it goes Asa Newell. It's another rookie there for you at pick 222. Kelly Oubre, Marcus Smart, Vince Williams, Moses Moody, Deuce McBride, Jonathan Mobo, Jaime Jaquez, TJ McConnell at pick 230. Then it goes Chris Dunn, Tyus Jones, Jake LaRavia, AJ Mitchell, Nikhil Alexander Walker, Kyle Kuzma, Jalen Tyson. That's a pretty sneaky pick there. I have him at 216, so getting him a little later. Pretty nice value. Was a first-round pick last year. So definitely still has some talent. So getting him at 237, a little nice value. Tyrese Proctor, Julian Champagny, Janai Broom, Dalton Connect, Rocco Zakarski. This is now round 13, so we're looking at 242 for Zakarski. Dylan Jones, nice upside swing. Dennis Schroeder, Keldon Johnson, Isaiah Stewart, Nemius Queta, D'Anthony Melton, Jonas Valanciunas, Karis LeVert, the middle of round 13, making that pick 250. For the sake of not going through every single pick, I will hit some highlights. We have Jace Richardson at 255. It's pretty interesting for a guy that just went in the first round and looked really good at Summer League. Coming around to round 14, we have Jay Huff. That's pick 261. That's a nice pick for potentially getting a starting center. Not super excited about him long term, but should be in for a really good year. Pick 6 and 7 of round 14. So that's 266 and 267. Cody Williams and Tijon Salon. Yeah, it was that type of class in 2024. But maybe they'll be better than that. So could be pretty good value there. I know it was pretty poor during their rookie years, but hopefully they'll be a little better. Lonzo Ball at 273. Kobe Buffkin at 278. Wow, that's quite a value fall for him. I know he hasn't been able to be healthy, but he was widely regarded as like a really nice pick for a while there. So seeing his value fall is interesting. Jacoby Walter and Oso Ighodaro at picks 293, 294. Both those guys, specifically Ighodaro, look good at Summer League. Brooks Barnheiser and Ben Saroff right after that at 295 and 296. Two more rookies. Then Drake Powell kicks off round 16, so that is 301. Yannick Conan Niederhauser at 306. Leonard Miller 307 is pretty interesting. Hugo Gonzalez at 313. Duthiero at 317. Amari Williams at 318. Seeing some of those like second round rookie guys that we like going in the later, like towards the end of this draft. Drew Timme sighting, nice 323 for Drew Timme. A couple of like veteran pieces that'll help this year in this round as well. Bogdan Bogdanovic went 326. Al Horford at 330. AJ Johnson at 335. Tyler Smith 336. Noah Penda 337. Luka Garza 339, and Mr. Irrelevant Harrison Barnes at 340. So that was a 20-team Roto Dynasty startup draft, like a real league. If you watch this went all the way through and you're able to kind of piece together how the teams are looking, comment who you think your favorite team is. Let me know who you think is going to win this league, or maybe let me know who you think is going to end up with that number 1 overall pick in the 2026 class, and be pretty happy with how that turns out. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Young Man Squad Fantasy Basketball Podcast, which, as I said at the beginning, is part of the Old Man Squad Sports Network, which is part of the Believe Network, and is brought to you by FanDuel. We will have the actual Q&A tomorrow. That is locked in. It's no more delays. We will be doing the Q&A with Matt Lawson tomorrow. Still time to get any more Dynasty questions that you have in, but don't wait too long. But that's going to do it for this episode, and I will see you guys tomorrow.